Hey everybody, massive spoiler today. I know this video is coming out a little bit late, was busy, had a lot of things going on, but I'm finally getting around to getting all my details organized so I can give you guys a nice clear picture of what to do about these combat relics that were just spoiled today. So let's get right into it. I expect today to be a little bit of a longer video, so I'm gonna make sure I put some timestamps and some chapters in the video, so if you check out the description below, you should be able to see links. So if you're just like, hey, I know I'm gonna pick magic, and all I want to do is just understand the magic details and the information for the magic relic, you can just hop to that section. If you're just looking for kind of like a summary overview, you can just hop over to the recap, and I'll just kind of give you my short TLDR version. Definitely check that out if you just want a quick synopsis. Otherwise, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare Trailblazer to Trailblazer Reloaded, and we'll see the main differences there. And it's not like a one-to-one because there's some other effects from other relics that have been kind of shoved into these combat relics this time around, so I'll explain some of those details. And then I'm also going to give you like my overview of each relic. And again, I'll try to put the details in the descriptions and the links below, so you can kind of just hop to any section that you're really interested in or you want to rewatch later on when you're trying to make your decisions right before league start. But that said, let's get right into it. So first of all, we're going to talk about the melee relic. This is called Brawler's Resolve. On the left, I'm not going to read each of the lines. It's just a lot to read and kind of pretty boring. If you guys want, you just pause the screen right now, watch or read the slides yourself, and then we can go from there. But pretty much one of the big flaws from Trailblazer was 5-tick weapons weren't as good as 4-tick weapons. So they've kind of fixed that. And they've done this for all the 3 combat styles. So melee has this where attack speed weapons with 4 and above are rounded down. So if you have a 5-tick weapon, it'll go down to a 2-tick weapon. And then if you have a 3-tick weapon, that'll also get halved and rounded up. So it'll go to 1.5 and then it'll go to 2 ticks. So pretty much your 3-tick weapon and your 5-tick weapon are equivalent. And this is going to be, I'll talk about a little bit later. So that's kind of one of the main differences. Your accuracy is about the same, but the main things are your critical strikes is a big one. That's a new one, and I'll talk about that in the details. And then you also have immunity to status effects. This was a little bit, I think, of one of the defensive relics that we've had in the past. It's kind of merged into here. That's a little bit new. In the past, we used to have 15% less damage, and now that's been kind of replaced with like this, status effects as well as like increased defenses. Now, just remember, like this increased defenses, that's going to impact your defense score. So if you're not wearing good mage defensive armor, then it's not going to increase your defenses that way, right? It's not going to reduce the damage coming in from magic. It's like, but if you are wearing really strong magic defensive armor, it will boost your magic defenses. So just kind of keep that in mind. And those are kind of the main differences. There's some accuracy differences and things like that. But it's pretty minor. It's pretty kind of one-to-one. So overall, you have two main quality of life improvements with the Brawler's Resolve. You're going to have those status effects that I mentioned, and you're going to have those increased defenses. Now, I feel like that's a little bit weaker than taking reduced incoming damage. So just keep that in mind. It's not as strong as that part. But overall, once you get better gears, it'll be great, right? And then the immunity just means you don't have to worry about anti-venoms and getting certain potions that are just kind of annoying anti-fires. You can actually bring like a dragon defender to go kill dragons instead of a anti-dragon fire shield, things like that. But the main ones you're going to want to keep in mind are those damages, right? So, talking about Fang is a massive one-handed weapon. It's a 5-tick weapon, and that's now going to be a 2-tick weapon. Also, the Scythe. I'm not actually going to be unlocking Mauritania, so I'm not going to be able to get the Scythe. But if you have that, that's going to be huge, right? You're going to have AoE smacks for big bosses and raids that'll be at a 2-tick. I can't even imagine the ticks just happening. I don't even know the animation. It's going to be so fast, right? And then the critical strike, this is just 10% flat out more damage, right? 10% chance to hit double the hits. You're going to start seeing some massive stacks. Now, we don't have the full details of when Scythe hits, if it's going to be all 3 of the hits are going to count, or just the main hit and then the 2 side hits won't count as much. But things like Dragon Claws specs, because those are 4 individual hits, or DDS as 2 individual hits, those should be impacted by the critical strike on each hit. So that's really important. And then of course, melee accuracy, this is just a little bit buffed. So that's just going to be great. It's going to impact your damage because you're more likely to hit against those tanky monsters. And that's just going to be great. So overall, melee, really well-rounded relic. If you like punching things and just meleeing things and getting up in their face, if you're worried about getting those, anti-venoms and anti-fires, this is a great relic to pick. Fang is really overpowered from Desert. You just have also great gears overall. Don't forget, in Karamja, you're going to get access to full Obsidian right off the back, and you can get Whip. from the Abyssal Demons, right? So you're just going to be able to get a lot of good gear early on, and then you're just going to be able to go to town and start smacking monsters, which is great. Cool. Archer's Embrace, right? This is the range relic. This is, renamed from Quick Shot from back then. It has a little bit of the similar things where the 10% more damage and increased accuracy, and then the 90% ammunition saving is almost identical, right, from the pass around. But we do have a couple other things with Enchanted Bold procs, right? And then your attack speed change is going to be the same as the melee one that I mentioned before. So your 5-tick weapons are going to go down to a 2-tick weapon. And then, your blowpipe, which is a 2-tick, is going to go down to a 1-tick. So there's going to be some DPS calcs to kind of min and max there and understand in which situations it's better. I think most of the time your T-bow and your Xerac crossbows are going to be better. But for example, if you have like a MSB and you're comparing that to one of the crossbows that's a 5-tick, you're just going to be doing better off with the 5-tick, because your 5-tick is going to go down to a 2-tick. Your MSB that's a 3-tick is going to go down to a 2-tick, and therefore you're just going to get benefit from the better accuracy, and then the bolts are just going to be usually better than the arrows that you're using. Right, saving Chinchompas is going to be huge. So if you get a couple of Chinchompas and just go to town to any multi-combat area, you're going to get some massive range XP. If you're not 99 already, you're going to get it, but also you're just going to kind of unlock 99 by doing content. So keep that in mind. You don't need to get so many Chinchompas to train range, right? It's not super important there. Also, the additional chance of firing an additional projectile, again, just more damage, and then the accuracy is just a really nice boost. So overall, I think, Archer's Embrace has got some really heavy damage buffs. The 2-tick to 5-tick are going to impact your two big weapons, the Xerac crossbow and the T-bow. One thing I want to call out also is BofA has no added benefit from using attack or long range to rapid now, because the 4-tick on rapid will get rounded down to a 2, and then your 5 ticks from accurate and long range will also get rounded down to a 2. So make sure that if you are using BofA, you're using the accurate or the long range styles. You're going to get either more defense on the long range, or you're going to get more ranged on the attack accurate. BofA is already insanely accurate, plus the 100% increased accuracy multiplier, but getting that 3 extra, plus range, hidden boost, it's not going to hurt, right? Or you can get +3 defense, right? Just keep that in mind if you are using BofA. But Twisted Bow and Xerac Crossbow are going to be absolutely insanely busted, just because they're going to be attacking so fast, right? And then for those of you who don't know, so you can't get Avas by default from your regions. It does require Mauritania, but if you do unlock Mauritania, you can get an Ava's device, so that'll get you that ammo saving double stack effect at 98%. If you don't have that, you can either get a range cape, you can get a max cape, so there's a couple other options that you have to kind of get that double stacking, but 90% is already better than the best Avas we have in the game. So it's already going to be saving you a ton of ammunition, which is already phenomenal. If you get a BofA, you can get the corrupted version, and then you don't have to worry about charges, which is great. But the main thing I want to talk about also is the damage, right? 10 times chance to fire an additional projectile. If you stack that with an increased chance to proc, right? I know your Enchanted Bolt proc rates are going to be from 10% or 11% to 22%, right? And then if you have Kandrin and you do the Kandrin diary, it'll be 12.1 times 2, so 24.2%, right? That's going to be massive, because you're going to fire an additional projectile, and then that also has a chance to proc, right? And that's just going to be insane. You're going to be pushing out crazy amounts of damage. The one thing I don't know that I'm waiting for Jagex to hopefully have some clarification on, or maybe you guys know the answer, you can leave a comment below and explain, is so the dark bow shoots 2 arrows, so that's going to be an 8-tick weapon going down to a 4-tick weapon. Now the 10% chance to fire an additional projectile, is that for each arrow, or is that just one additional arrow? Because it'd be insane if every 4 ticks, you were firing 4 hits. That's pretty much a D-claw spec every 4 ticks, right? That's insane, just on a regular hit. So the dark bow could be something that's really powerful early on too. If you have a dark beast to kill in your region, that might be valuable. But other than that, going for the Armadillo crossbow is going to be powerful. The Xerac crossbow is just going to be even more powerful. And then the range increase accuracy is just overall really, really nice. It's just going to make those hits that weren't hitting as often hit pretty much all the time. Cool. Let's get into Superior Sorcerer, right? This is the Mage Relic. Oh my God, there's a giant wall of text, right? Again, I'm not going to read through everything here. Pretty much the TLDR is they've added a lot more quality of life improvements. They've added some good, kind of combat damage relics here, but a lot of these are really just quality of life improvements. Again, pause the screen if you want to read through all these. It's also listed on the Discord. It's on the Twitter page. If you haven't seen them already, this video is coming out probably 10 hours or 8 hours after the spoilers were. So hopefully you've had a chance to already read it. So I'm not going to cover this, but there's quite a bit of quality of life changes, and I'm actually just going to kind of go into in the next bit. So quality of life. You're going to save 90% runes. That already existed in the previous Trailblazer relic, so that's going to be about the same. The rune pouch, however, you're going to just get a rune pouch by default, right? This to me shouldn't sway your options because getting a rune pouch is pretty quick, especially if you watch my last video and you know that they spoiled the Slayer point multiplier. We're going to get Slayer points so fast you can get a rune pouch really quickly for those who don't have it. So if you're like, oh, I got a rune pouch, I want this relic, don't worry, you're going to be able to get a rune pouch, no problem, right? But the big benefit with the rune pouch is a +2 runes. And then if you're going to be unlocking Desert and you're going to raid Toa and you're going to get the needle, you're going to be able to store 6 runes, right? You add that with the charges that you just load up in the weapon, you're pretty much going to have all your teleport runes. You're going to be saving 90% of them. So you're going to be able to just cast all your teleports, all your utility spells, and have your combat weapon loaded with charges all the time. Like you are a wizard just on the entire landscape of Gielinor, right? You're just going to be a wizard all the time. That's amazing, right? Also, with Arcane Grimoire, you don't have to worry about going to altars, making an altar in your house to switch spellbooks. You're going to be able to, oh, I'm done with my raid. I need to AFK for a while. Let me just start making planks. Quickly switch your spellbook. Again, that's region locked, so make sure you know what spellbooks you have based off of your regions. If you're like, oh, I'm really excited that I can have instantaneous spellbook swap, but you don't have a lot of spellbook swap regions, maybe it's not that important, right? So just keep that in mind. Binding spells always hit. There are some crazy kooky mechanics with this, and if you are going to be abusing this, you already know what they are. They existed kind of the same in Trailblazer, in some raids and some other things, so just keep that in mind. That's going to be a really utility thing for those of you, and definitely check that out when some people come out with it, right? So the main thing on the damage, Tunic Shadow is going to be insane just because it's a 5-tick weapon, now hitting at 2 ticks, right? The same kind of effect from the before. The 25% splash is great. Just keep that in mind. It's only multi-area combat zones. So if you're, for example, if you're doing like Bandos and the minions are all stacked on top of each other, sure, you're going to be able to smack one minion and smack the 2 nearby minions, and you won't need to use AoE ancient magics. You can just use your shadow to kind of AoE kill everything at once. For those, combat relics, so you need to kill a couple things at the same time or within like a second of each other, that might be good, right? It'll just kind of make it happen. But again, it's 25% of the damage. It's not 100%, so not as powerful as the ancient magics. But again, you're just going to be hitting way better with the shadow, right? You have way more increased magic accuracy. So pretty much any monster that has a high magic defense, you should be able to hit through. Obviously, this is based off of your gear, so better staffs are going to have more accuracy, right? So you want to have the better magic slots, but once you have those, it's just going to exponentially grow, right? And then magic overall just flat buffed by 20%, which is great. So again, if you're going to go for the shadow, you're going to need Desert to get the shadow from TOA. Also, the shadow really scales off of the occult and the tormentor bracelet. So if you're going to be going magic, you're going to be locking yourself into kind of Desert and Kandarin as your 2 required regions. And then you can choose something else, right? If you want to get ancestral, you can go to Kourend. You can also get the Virtus robes from the various DT2 bosses. So you can, kind of play around with that as figuring out what your best in slot mage items are. But again, if you're going for the magic relic, one, it could just be a really good utility. So for those of you who are beginners and are like, hey, I just want to play the game and I want like an easy quality of life, I actually think magic is going to be great for you. Because just a lot of utility, the big rune pouch, the spellbook swaps, as long as you have the regions with the different spellbooks, it's just going to have a really nice impact. And if you're not doing the endgame raids and the endgame content, I think magic is great. Saving 90% of runes is something that doesn't exist in regular RuneScape at all, right? We have an Ava's for range, but and Melee doesn't even use things except for like, Abyssal Tentacle, but you can just use like regular whips or fangs, so you don't have to worry about charges. Magic doesn't have that, right? So that's a massive thing. So I definitely recommend it out. If you're a new player, definitely check out the Magic Relic. It's definitely going to have a lot of quality of life things. If you're a returning player and you know what you're doing, you're going to be doing the Desert Kandarin kind of effect and just going to town with the Shadow, which is already such a powerful weapon. So yeah, Magic Relic overall, super great. So let's just recap all the 3 of these relics, right? So remember one thing, so if there's anything to kind of take away from this video, 5-tick weapons are not 2-tick weapons. So get the most powerful 5-tick weapon you can based off of your region, and that's going to be your best in slot for your combat style based off of whichever relic you pick. We have boosted damage and accuracy for all of them. So any monster you're like, oh, I don't know if I can actually hit through their defenses. With the increased accuracy, you should be able to hit through a lot of defenses. And that's really important because we want to be hitting damage. We don't want to be missing all the time, right? Magic and range have great resource save abilities. So if you can't get that Ava's, and Magic doesn't even have a rune save ability, so those are going to be massive, huge quality of lives. And like I mentioned, Magic has the best quality of life improvements, I think. Range, I think, has overall the most powerful DPS impact without real additional gear. If you're looking for heavy math on DPS calculators, I definitely recommend checking out the Discord, and there's a Relics discussion channel where people are putting up a lot of spreadsheets of DPS calcs, and the Shadow is actually very powerful. So keep that in mind for those of you who are Magic users, but that does region lock you to Kandarin and Desert as a hard requirement. So yeah, range overall I think is going to be the best, and actually I'm definitely going range. I think based off of my regions, I'm just going to have great use of the Zerai crossbow, the armor crossbow, getting those Ruby Bolt procs all the time for the raids is going to be great. And I'm also going to be going for a BofA, so that's also going to be just, it just kind of aligns with my regions really well. And then for those of you who are maybe new and are hoping to kill some bosses and get into things, I think melee has the best balance of a good mix of defensive and nice combat quality of life things, and then it also has a good amount of damage, right? The critical strikes with the 10% to deal double damage is just 10% flat out more damage. Along with that, if you're gonna get the Fang and you're gonna unlock Desert and go to Toa, Fang is a pretty common drop, and then with the crazy drop rate multipliers, you should be able to get a Fang pretty easily, right? You're only gonna be unlucky if you keep getting Shadows and Light Bearers and other rares, but you should be able to get a Fang, right? So yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you found some information helpful. Hopefully you got a good analysis of the before and new. And hopefully this is going to give you some good insights to picking your relic. Again, if you're going to tune in to hopefully my everyday daily updates for every spoiler and analysis, definitely subscribe. If you found this video helpful, definitely give it a like. If I missed anything or got anything incorrect, I'm not an expert player, so please leave a comment and I'll try to put some annotations and correct it. And thank you so much for taking the time and watching this video.